Well, hello, good evening, everyone. My name's Kirk Rutter. I love Blender and I also work as a specialist technician at the London College of Fashion. And I joined this group because I wanted to kind of network more with people that were using this. And, I don't really need to say a lot about what is happening. We're all being affected by it. But for my job, it meant that a lot of students were stuck where they were or had to go home. And in this case, unfortunately, the student Shuyi, who I'm going to introduce you to now, had to return to China, which meant that she missed most of her time that she would have had in the studio at the college. So we've had to pivot our roles to teaching online and working with students who would do traditional making in studios, actually using hand tools and producing things, to a more digital aspect of it. It was very difficult at first, and to be honest, I was quite skeptical about teaching online. I thought it'd be quite difficult transferring skills. It would be constrictive due to time differences, the reliable connection issues, hardware issues, and then but transferring workshops that I was doing in person practically with students to them being doing completely online as well. And I struggled with the thought of doing some of this, especially things like photogrammetry, which is a topic I talked about last week at the last meeting. So in a moment, I'm going to be introducing Shuyi, who's here, Shuyi Zeng, and she was studying MA Costume Design for Performance at London College of Fashion, and this is the outcome of her final project. Now, she had never used any kind of 3D software before, or never heard of Blender, and never used photogrammetry before. And for this project, we introduced both Blender and photogrammetry. So this was for a series of workshops that we run at the college through our digital learning labs, and that would be drawing in virtual space, scanning photogrammetry, working with wearable technology, so putting kind of digital or data into fabrics, and so I've been giving kind of tutorials on these subjects and through the digital learning lab, and then was introduced to Shuyi, who was actually stuck in China since March, and her course finished in November. And this is a costume that she made at home, and here it is actually in her apartment at home, and she was able to move it into a larger space within her apartment, so we could then start to scan using photogrammetry, which is a single camera taking photos around this to then produce a 3D model. Because we were so far apart, there was no way that we could actually connect to each other. And this is photogrammetry. So this is from the software Metashape. And each one of those blue squares is a photograph that Shuyi took to then build this 3D model. You can see it looks a bit like a data storm. So here's a photo of, next I'm going to show you some photos of the actual costume. There's around 500 photos to take this scan. So I'm going to hand you over to Shuyi now.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Shuyi and nice to meeting you here. I was glad to work with Kirk this semester to make this project. The project was inspired by the book Brave New World and discussed about the genetic engineering technology. This is the final costume for my MA. I use medical tubing around the costume, which are not able to be scanned. Next page. So here you can see my scan outcome. On the top is my first attempt. You can see the model lose the head, and on the bottom you can see my second attempt to scan, and this time I got the whole model. But it didn't come out very well, and it was very noisy. You can see all the bad data on the legs and the bottom right. Next page. Here is the model. I have cleaned the most part in the Metashape, but you can see there's hardly a gap now between the arms and still a lot of noise. Next page. So I was able to clean this up in Blender and change the position of arms. In Blender, we use Bezier curve to build the tubes, which could not scan. Next page. Since the translucent pedals on the headwear couldn't be scanned, Kirk suggests rebuilding the headpiece in Blender. I created a model of each pedal. Then I took pictures from physical pedals and projected the photo on the digital model to create the texture. I did the same thing with the model's face. I downloaded a free 3D face model to resculpt it to match my performance face, then projected to the photo of her face on the face model. Here is the outcome. Next page. So here you can see my final model. At right is the model with the pedal, and on the left is the model with pedal, and the right is the model itself. Next page. And here is the close shoot of my pedals and head. Yeah.
And then around this time, so while we were kind of working on this model and just going through these stages of capturing and building it and actually transforming, you know, building a digital copy of this model that was in China that we could both kind of work on, I was put in touch with the performance department there, and I'll just sorry, this isn't playing. There we are. And they explained that they had a project with a choreographer called Alexander Whitby. He's a London-based choreographer, and this is a member of his dance team performing and being motion captured at a company called Target 3D based in London. So you can see that she's wearing a costume with these orange discs around, and around the room here, you can see there are all these kind of strange looking cameras. So no matter how she moves, every joint, every rotation, every point, you get a really smooth capture of this performance. So you know, the motion, all the motion is captured. Meanwhile, we looked at one of my favorite websites called Miximo. It's a really big hit with students. It's a very easy way to rig models. So we uploaded the clean model to Miximo, and then we got a rig version of that backed out. And here's the model with the skeletal rig attached via Miximo. And so now we wanted to transfer this motion capture data into this rigged model, and that was the idea. Seeing, because normally the performance could be done if the costume was in London, so this was a kind of workaround, you know, because we couldn't actually film it here in London. And here's the output of the actual motion capture data playing in Blender, and you can just see, oops, excuse me, you can see how smooth it is. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a problem playing it. There we are. Okay. So here it is. This is the motion capture data just being played back, and you can see the actual capture of that movement using that optical system and the motion capture suit. You know, it's just really, really smooth and really kind of, I just think it looks so beautiful and elegant, like kind of when you see it kind of like this. So that was a really good capture. So now we were going to transfer this performance into the model, and we use the Rococo plugin. Rococo make motion capture suits, but they also provide a really nice plugin for Blender. So we're able to transfer from the skeleton that had the motion capture data onto the other skeleton, or the rig that had that was attached to the model, and just transfer the data over, sync them over. But it was around about this time when everything was going really well, we started hitting other problems. So when we were retargeting, the arms were kind of turning in on themselves. Some of the rotation data was wrong. And then we started getting these weird, as you can see here, these weird vertices issues. And we spent a lot of time trying to sort this out. And eventually I kind of thought of a new workflow. We started a lot of the process again, which made it quicker, and we had a success. So we actually uploaded it to Sketchfab, and we've got a 14-minute performance running in this costume on Sketchfab, which I can share with you at some point. But that was, we were both, Shuyi and I were elated at that point. We were like, yes, it worked. So back to Shuyi.
Okay, so after solving the motion problem, I started to make scene according to my storyboard. So you can see here is my storyboard of my whole story. Next page. It can be divided into 4 scenes. I made them in separate files. The first scene is birthing. I created a red environment for my character to make her look like in the artificial womb. Next page. The second scene is the flower blooming scene. I had a meeting with Kirk and discussed about how to make the headpiece bloom. I put rigs in each petal and set keyframe for them to open. I also created the dark environment and lighting for my character. Next page. So here you can see it's the situation when my petals are closed. Next page. And here is the screenshot when my petals are blooming. And next, you can see a render test of my blooming video. Next page. And we did a lot of work to fix the problem that the flower head need to move with the body. I managed to find a tutorial on YouTube because of the rich Blender community. Next page. Originally, I wanted to make the pedal drop to the floor, but Kirk encouraged me to try the effect that cannot be achieved in the real world and show me a clip from the Matrix film. With the help of tutorial, I made this effect using the explode modifier.
And I must say, I was really shocked that Shuyi had not seen The Matrix. I almost could not believe it, you know. So I showed Shuyi some clips, and then we got this idea. But this looked absolutely beautiful, and what Shuyi's done in such a short time, I mean, you'll see when we show the film, has been incredible. So Shuyi showed me a clip. She said, well, look, I want to achieve this in part of my film. And I don't know about you guys, but I thought, okay, that's easy in Blender straight away. What does this remind you of? As soon as I saw it, I just thought, oh, metaballs. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So so we were able to use metaballs, and I'll hand you back over to Shuyi.
Yeah, originally I want to create the effect that the model become trapped in the bubble. And Kirk suggests me to use Metable to create this effect. We also experimented with the shading to make reflective effect. Next page. And this is the final scene that the character is shrink wrapped inside a package. With the advice of Kirk, we look into using the shrink wrap modifier to make this effect.
So we're able to quickly use like the shrink wrap modifier, metaballs. A lot of the stuff was already available in Blender, you know, to be able to kind of utilize straight away. And as you can see, that's a very specific thing, someone being shrink wrapped into a package, but there's actually a modifier called the shrink wrap modifier that does that, which is great. And you know, there's this kind of expanded on my kind of love of Blender, really. And I've only been using it a year, and Shuyi's only been using it a couple of months, you know, and I just think it's incredible that this software is free. So over this time, my thought on remote teaching and learning has flipped 180 degrees. You know, I see so much potential kind of in this way of working now. And the fact that Shuyi and I are here together with you guys, able to sync, you know, it just shows actually the power of this kind of tele networking and actually what can be achieved. And I hope this presentation also shows, you know, that working collaboratively doesn't really matter where you are in some respects. You know, the digital kind of stuff really extends and enhances and can sometimes save, you know, workflows. And I know a lot of us here will probably already be sold, but where I am and where I work, a lot of people are very traditional. And you know, Shuyi's hard work on this and dedication just really, I think, showed a lot of these tutors how wonderful this technology and Blender can be. So now I'd like to show you the film that Shuyi has worked on and the final render of her film. So Shuyi, would you like to introduce this before I press play?
Yes, so in this film, I combine the real life shooting with the Blender animation together to create this kind of effect. Maybe you can enjoy it.
And what I should have said as well is that Shuyi had to render a lot of this on her laptop. I think it's amazing what she's achieved. She's had to film this herself and use Blender and learn photogrammetry and produce all of this. I think she's done an incredible job, and it just, you know, just shows how Blender is saving people, you know, literally. And one other thing, it's actually 3:30 a.m. in China for Shuyi, and she's stayed up very late to join. So Shuyi, thanks for doing this. Thanks for sharing this with everyone. And can we give Shuyi a round of applause, please?
Thank you, guys.
Well done, well done, great.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.